安. It is a greatest pleasure to welcome all of you at the APEC Women-led Startup Accelerator Forum. My name is Charles Lee, and it's my special privilege here to be your MC today. 欢迎各位来到 APEC 女性新创加速器国际论坛。我是 Charles Lee， 很高兴今天能担任大家的司仪。At the beginning of the forum, we have prepared a special opening video for you all. Please enjoy. 在论坛开始前，我们将为各位播放一棒特别的开幕影片，欢迎。Welcome everyone joining us at the APEC Women-led Startup Acceleration Forum. It's truly our honor to have all of you here. And it's our greatest pleasure to have with us today Secretary General of Economic Affairs, Chinese Taipei, Ms. Yilin Chen, to grace the curtain on today's event. 欢迎经济部陈怡玲主任秘书为我们致辞并揭开活动序幕。恭请主任秘书上台致辞，欢迎。
Konovala, and Mr. Augustine Gassis, and Mrs. Soda Maziza, and Ambassador Kelly Curry, our good friends and partners from the Office of SMEs Promotion, Thailand, and the Ministry of Entrepreneurial Development and Cooperative Malaysia, and the Department of Trade and Industry, the Philippines. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the Small and Medium Enterprise Administration, on behalf of the Ministry of Economic Affairs, it is a great pleasure for me to welcome you to the APEC Women-led Startup Accelerator Forum. With our most sincere gratitude, we would like to thank our partner economies for your warm support and for the presence of each and every one of our honorable guests. From the women's rights movement in the 19th century to gender mainstreaming in the 20th century, the quest for women's economic empowerment and gender equality has come a long way. As we march onward in the 21st century, it has become clearer than ever that women play a key role in the future of economic development. With the joint efforts of the APEC economies, the Accelerator roadmap for women and the inclusive growth was adopted by APEC in 2019. This is shown that the economic empowerment of women is now a priority recognized by APEC member economies and require us to take concrete action. This is the reason why we launched the APEC Women-led Startup Accelerator initiative in 2019. During these years, with support from our co-sponsoring economies, namely Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and the Philippines, 3 workshops were successfully held online in August, October, and November, with more than 200 participants from 17 APEC economies. We are continuing to work to facilitate APEC cooperation in order to help ensure women-led startups and the SMEs can access capital in both local and the international markets. Hopefully, more women entrepreneurs and startups will discover more opportunities regarding fundraising and the market expansion through such capacity building workshops. Today's forum aims to strengthen the competitiveness of women-led startups and the SMEs, and is the concluding event of this initiative. I would like to once again express my sincerest appreciation to all our participants along the way, including our speakers, mentors, trainees, partners, and each and every one of our guests today. We hope our international collaboration will help to realize the full potential of women entrepreneurship, not only in APEC, but also globally. I wish all a successful and fruitful event.
活动一切顺利，谢谢大家。
Today with us, we have experts, we have government officials, we have entrepreneurs here with us, we have Accelerator with us. We're going to discuss this topic, how the women entrepreneurs going to access to market and access to capitals. Okay, first I would like to invite Ms. Christine Nakamura, Vice President, Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada. 首先，我要邀请 Christine Nakamura， 加拿大亚太基金会副董事长，来跟我们分享。Let's give her a warm applause.
Thank you for the kind introduction and for inviting me to take part in this timely and exciting forum. Before I begin, I'd like to take a minute to tell you about the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada, which is a not-for-profit organization, a think tank, established by an act of Parliament in 1984, focused on Canada's relations with Asia. Our efforts are dedicated to strengthening ties between Canada and Asia, with a focus on expanding economic relations, collaborating with Asian friends on finding solutions to address global challenges, including climate change, energy and food security, and natural resources management. We also focus on building Asia skills and competencies among Canadians, especially among our youth, and improving Canadians' general understanding of Asia and its growing global influence. We concentrate on economies of Northeast and South Asia and emerging markets within the ASEAN. Next slide, please. My presentation today will focus on a key project to expand Canada's economic relations with the Asia-Pacific region. The project involves organizing and leading women-only trade missions to key markets in the Asia-Pacific. I will provide the project context, report on our first in-market trade mission in 2019, and some Canadian government support programs to help our entrepreneurs, and of course, our COVID-19 pivot to a virtual mission model. Next slide, please. The next, one more. Next slide, please. Again, next slide. So the McKinsey Global Institute, or MGI report of June 2017, indicated that accelerating progress toward gender equality in Canada is not only the right thing to do, but a smart thing to do, and which would reap tremendous economic dividends for Canada moving forward. The report projected that Canada could add $150 billion to its GDP by 2026 by advancing women's equality and labor market participation. To achieve this economic opportunity, Canada needs to increase the number of women in high productivity sectors such as STEM sectors or technology, in management, and among business owners, and two, to increase the labor market, labor force participation rate. Next slide, please. Small and medium enterprises, the backbone of Canada's economy, account for 99% of all Canadian businesses. Only 16% of these SMEs are women-owned. And of these 16%, only 15% export. So of all Canadian SMEs, 1.3% are women-owned and are exporting internationally. Next slide, please. Again, next slide. By summer of 2017, it was clear that under the leadership of our feminist Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, the government was committed to helping women. Policy directions and goals, as well as budgets announced by the government, clearly indicated that they were serious about gender equality and gender economic advancement. So with this in mind, we launched a cross-Canada dialogue series with women thought leaders and entrepreneurs to hear the challenges faced by career women in getting into the C-suite jobs or into boards, and the key barriers to business scaling by women SMEs. We briefed participants about the opportunities offered by growth markets in the Asia-Pacific region so that they could grow their businesses. Discussions centered on challenges and solutions to enable women entrepreneurs to diversify into growth markets in Asia. We traveled from coast to coast and organized 8 roundtables involving over 300 women thought leaders and women SMEs. One consistent message heard was the need for trade missions dedicated to women entrepreneurs only. Next slide, please. This slide lists the major barriers identified by dialogue participants to scaling women-owned or women-led SMEs. 1, the lack of access to capital, and we heard Ambassador Curry talk about that. 2, lack of experience and confidence for international expansion. And 3, many of the women participants had STEM training or backgrounds, and they shared their difficult journeys of rising in male-dominated sectors and environments. Next slide, please. Again, next slide. So a year after launching our Women to Women Dialogue series, we decided to deliver on the main recommendation and organize our first women-only trade mission to Japan, one of Canada's key trading partners in Asia and the largest economy in the Comprehensive and Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, or CPTPP. With support from the public and private sectors, we led a delegation of 17 women entrepreneurs and a dozen women thought leaders to Japan in April 2019. We chose the care economy for our theme as it embraces the largest number of women on both the demand and supply sides, as the burden of care, including that of children, family, disabled, and elderly, disproportionately rests with women. Japan, one of the most aged societies in the world, has been investing heavily for decades in R&D to find viable care solutions to manage its elderly because of its rapidly declining population. Japan's leadership in elder care innovations attracted many Canadian delegates with backgrounds in STEM and in particular life sciences. 8 significant deals were signed between our delegates and Japanese companies, which is an unprecedented accomplishment actually. Next slide, please. In the fall of 2018, the Government of Canada announced the Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy Ecosystem Fund, a $5 billion investment to double the number of women-owned and women-led SMEs in Canada by 2025. After successfully leading our mission to Japan, we were awarded a $2 million contribution from this fund to organize and lead 4 trade missions to South Korea, Taiwan, India, and China, all important markets for Canada. Next slide, please. So these are the destinations that we'll be focusing on. Next slide, please. Again. Next slide. South Korea was selected as our first destination, and it is the only economy in Asia with which Canada has a bilateral free trade agreement. A mission was planned for February 2020 to celebrate the 5th anniversary of coming into force of the Canada-Korea Free Trade Agreement. Also, their leader, President Moon Jae-in, is also a known feminist, self-acclaimed feminist, and so we thought it was a great idea to go there. Next slide, please. 20 talented women entrepreneurs representing healthcare and wellness, education technology, and nutraceutical sectors were selected from across Canada through a competitive process. Majority of the delegates had STEM backgrounds. Our mission chair and current chair of the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada's Asia Business Leaders Advisory Council, Dr. Yoon Song-yi, who has a PhD in computational neuroscience from MIT and is president of one of South Korea's leading video game producers, was an excellent choice to lead our mission. Next slide, please. This slide shows the exciting program that was confirmed for the in-market mission to South Korea that was supposed to take place in February, and it has become our template for future missions. We had to postpone this mission due to COVID-19 to protect the health and safety of delegates and partners. Next slide. Again, next slide, please. So, I'm sorry, I can't see the slide very well. So in any event, we had to pivot to a virtual mission model. COVID-19 has had a profound impact on economies around the world, including Canada's. SMEs have and continue to bear the brunt of pandemic measures, with a disproportionate share being endured by women-owned and women-led SMEs. And I think Madame Curry also mentioned that this morning. With the subsequent waves of infections upon us, threatening to shutter revenue-generating activities again, and we are facing that in Toronto, where I am located, prospects for survival beyond the winter is not looking very favorable. Within this context, our team decided to take action and pivot to hosting a technology-enabled virtual mission. We recently concluded our 2-day virtual mission to South Korea, which included most of the components of the February 2020 in-country mission. Inspirational speakers, a pitch session to enable our delegates to showcase their products and services in front of a large group of interested Korean companies, personalized business-to-business matching sessions, which are still ongoing as we speak, and networking opportunities for all attendees of the mission. The mission was a resounding success, but the overall impact of the mission will be evaluated when results of the B2B or business-to-business meetings become known. We have been credited with introducing a new approach to trade missions with our virtual model, which enabled participation by many promising entrepreneurs, including many startups who have limited resources and would not normally be able to participate in international trade missions. While we still believe that the value and impact of in-market missions cannot be totally replaced by a virtual model, it is the next best alternative to helping our women entrepreneurs during these extraordinary times. Knowledge gaps in accessing international markets identified by our women-to-women participants were addressed through 4 pre-mission training sessions to increase their potential to succeed in the mission. Experts provided information on market conditions and intelligence, explained key provisions of the Korean trade law and IPO protection policies, shared information on government support programs, and trained them on the use of a Geographic Information System, or GIS mapping tool on South Korea, which we developed and populated with information on the economy, market access, and business growth potential by sector. We focused on care industries, dovetailing 2 strategies for advancing women's economic and social opportunities. To promote 1, women entrepreneurs in STEM sectors, and 2, to promote innovative commercial solutions that offer support to caregivers and those requiring care. Canada and South Korea are both graying societies, creating economic opportunities for bilateral collaboration. South Korea's fertility rate is one of the lowest in the world, and with a projected reduction of 7.5 million to their working age people by 2040, its potential for economic output is declining. A key solution to declining populations and economic growth is to increase opportunities for women's economic participation. The virtual mission enabled us to increase the delegation to 25 women representing Canada's regions and diversity who own and lead businesses with potential to scale in the Korean market. Next slide, please. This slide clearly demonstrates the support of the Canadian government to women entrepreneurship. Both the Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, and Minister of Small Business, Export Promotion and International Trade, the Honourable Mary Ng, participated in our virtual mission. Next slide, please. This is a photo of some of our delegates representing Canada's pride and strength, our diversity. Next slide, please. Government supports, next slide, please. This is not an exhaustive list, but it identifies the key government supports available. The Business Development Bank of Canada, with a $1.4 billion in lending committed to women-led businesses until 2021. The $200 million Women in Technology Venture Fund, one of the world's largest venture capital funds dedicated to investing in women-led technology companies. 2, Export Development Canada, Women in Trade Investment Program, commits $100 million to provide equity growth capital or venture capital funds to women-owned and women-led companies that are scaling. And 3, the Can Export or Trade Commissioner Service Program of Global Affairs Canada commits $100 million to assist SMEs to expand into international markets. An eligible company is eligible to obtain up to $75,000 per company. And the Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy, which I mentioned earlier, a $5 billion investment to double the number of women-owned businesses by 2025. Next slide, please. So this is a slide that shows you 3 of the key support programs that were developed in response to COVID-19. The Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or CERB, which offers $2,000 a month to self-employed Canadians, so some of the small businesses who are directly affected by the pandemic. It concluded October the 3rd. The Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, it offers Canadian employers who have experienced a drop in revenue due to COVID-19 a subsidy to cover part of their employee wages until June 2021. And thirdly, the Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy, which covers a percentage of the commercial rent, property taxes, property insurance, and interest on commercial mortgages to qualifying companies. And this is based, the amount of funding available, the subsidy, is based on the revenue losses of the company and valid until June 2021. Next slide, please. Again, next slide. This slide lists the various partner agencies and organizations that we have added to our network, which provide various supports to Canadian women entrepreneurs. This list continues to grow as we delve into other markets in the Asia-Pacific region. Next slide, please. So the next stop is Taiwan. Our team is very excited about our planned virtual mission to Taiwan in the early spring of 2021. Taiwan hosts a vibrant market which offers Canadian women entrepreneurs excellent opportunities for collaboration, which should realize mutually beneficial outcomes for our two economies. We have begun our preparations and are working with our partners, including Canada's Trade Office in Taipei and Taiwanese government representatives here in Canada, as well as in Taiwan. In consultation with our partners, we will announce the dates of our mission shortly, so stay tuned. Finally, last slide, please. This concludes my remarks. Thank you and 谢谢。
接下来我们有大概约15分钟、20分钟的时间有 Q&A session， 我们有 online 的。
Okay, so we have about 15 minutes for Q&A.
Q&A session, so I think people online is gonna eager to shoot questions to our panelists. And for people on site, we also open up the floor for the Q&A. So you're gonna facilitate the question from Slido online?
Yes. So thank you, speakers, for your wonderful sessions. And now I'm going to ask some of the questions that we have on Slido and also some of the questions that we received here. So the first question goes to Ms. Nakamura. What are some Canada's prospects for female entrepreneurial development in the post-COVID-19 world? Did the pandemic affect your strategies?
Thank you for that question. It's a very good one. I actually think that the companies, the women-led entrepreneurs that have survived the pandemic by that time will be good companies. And so it's the responsibility of private sector and public sectors to do what they can to help them. So my strategy, our strategy in terms of the trade missions, we did pivot to a virtual model, which we have proven by the recent mission that we did on South Korea, that it's doable. I mean, the results are not yet known from the business-to-business matching sessions, but we contacted over 700 Korean companies for our 25 entrepreneurs to find companies that align with the business models of our women. And out of that 700, we got 70 plus matchings that are currently under discussion with the women entrepreneurs now. So as the McKinsey report said, you know, women's economic participation is absolutely crucial going forward. Even before the pandemic, we needed that to grow our markets, to grow our economies. And so I think it's absolutely crucial that we continue as governments and supporting organizations to help the women entrepreneurs that do survive the pandemic to scale. And certainly, I'm a strong proponent of continued trade into the Asian markets, because regardless, if we look at the handling of COVID-19, and I hosted a series of webinars with the best countries and economies that dealt with the COVID-19, and that includes places like Vietnam and Taiwan. And I actually hosted Minister Audrey Tang to do a presentation concerning what she did in order to manage the pandemic in Taiwan. It's, I think, absolutely crucial that we continue on this road. And I think what Canada is calling the she-covery, not, you know, the post-pandemic economic recovery, we're calling it the she-covery, is absolutely crucial for all of our post-pandemic efforts in recovering the economy. So in short, we will continue. I'm intending to continue the virtual trade missions until such time the international trade travel restrictions are lifted. And I think down the road, the new normal will be a combination of virtual and in-market trade missions. But there's a lot that can be done virtually, and I've become a strong proponent of that, even though before the first one, I was skeptical about whether or not we would succeed. So I hope that answers the question, and so back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Nakamura.